Welcome back to another episode of The Lone Sculptor Lessons from Quarantine. Today, the exercise is based on our 7-line profile that we talked about in a previous episode, except this time we're going to be doing it in clay. Now, the materials you'll need to complete this exercise is either a water-based clay, which I'm using here, or oil-based clay if you prefer, and something to put that clay on. So I'm using here a very simple type of armature support, which consists of some wood attached to a piece of plywood with two sort of elbow brackets and then a little bit of wire on the top. But you can be creative, use whatever you have available to you. Basically, you just need something that is secure that you're going to be able to attach clay onto. And this is a simple exercise that we're going to be taking apart at the end, so it doesn't need to be a perfect armature support like it would be if we were doing a long-term project. To begin our exercise, we are going to be using a reference image here. Now this is a representation of the 7-line profile that we talked about in the previous episode, and I've used a photograph of a model to come up with this profile so I could show you this simplified information. I'll make sure to post that image for you to access as well. So to begin, the first thing we want to do is just apply some clay to our armature. I'm going down the post a little bit so that it stays nice and solid and doesn't wiggle around on me too much. Okay, once I've got sort of a little blob, I can start to shape that blob. Now, what we're going to be working on here is, instead of creating a three-dimensional sculpture of a face, we're going to be focusing on just the profile, and we're going to be creating sort of a flattened representation of that. So this is kind of like we're taking the drawing we were working on previously, and now we're applying it to clay, but without adding the 3 dimensions yet. So what we want to do is kind of create the profile by building it in clay. And we're not going to worry about the back side of the head. We're just focusing on the front part for this exercise for simplicity's sake. So what I want to start doing is creating these angles. Now the tool I'm using here is a very simple wooden modeling tool. If you have something like that, that's perfect. If you don't, you can use like a paring knife, is a great tool. Even like, not a stir stick, those big like tongue depressor type thing, popsicle stick, anything that is sort of flat will work well for this exercise. We're not going to be doing any complicated shaping. Okay, so here you can see I'm starting to create these 7 angles here in clay. And because we're going to be just destroying this exercise afterwards, I'm not worrying too much about the way that I'm applying my clay. I'm not concerned about creating air bubbles or anything that might be a problem in firing it later. Okay, so you can see here I'm beginning to create these very distinct angles that we talked about. And then the other thing I want to double check is the relationship of one angle to another in terms of their depth this way. So we talked about in another video the idea of a plumb line. So if I was to drop a line down from a specific point, so say here this brow area, and if I was to drop that down, I can see that this part of the face is coming out further in space. So here right now on mine, these are kind of equal. This is actually coming behind this one in space. So this is sticking out further that way. And I want it to actually be the opposite relationship. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more material here to bring that
out further. Now, the common question always is, well, now do I add or do I take away? And in this particular exercise, you're a little bit freer than usual because you don't have the rest of the head to worry about because we're not including it. So in this particular one, the adding and taking away is not super critical at this point. We're just working till we get the relationship that we want. Here I'm just adding a bit to the nose because when I brought this out, it made the nose smaller, and I want to make sure that nose is still sticking out enough from the muzzle of the face. Okay, that's feeling a little bit better. If your piece is feeling floppy, like if it's too thin, you can see how thin mine is there. I feel okay about mine, but if it feels a little bit floppy, you can always go in and kind of give it some more oomph, some more support by adding some extra clay. Okay, so that's just step one, is creating the 7-line profile, but in clay. Step 2 of the exercise is going to be breaking down this very simplified profile into more complex information and then adding the features. So you can see I've put up this new image here, which is the second step of the profile, which is based on the same model as this original piece. So basically those same lines have just now been broken down into more information, and the features have been added. So let's walk through doing that together. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is go in and break up some of this basic information a little bit more. So for example, in the forehead, there is 2 angles here. I've broken it down, comme ça, instead of just the one that I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. So this is going to be a combination of adding and subtracting clay along this line that we built in order to find this new breakdown of lines. Now on this particular model, her glabella, so the area from the brow to the bridge of the nose, it is quite vertical. There's not that much of an angle change. So I'm going to soften that there. However, she does have a very exciting sort of nose bump here, which I'm going to add in just by adding in a little bit of clay there. Now, it makes it easier for you to see this stuff clearly. You can smooth this out. It's not necessary, but if it helps you concentrate on the essential information, then feel free to smooth that out. Okay, working my way down, just verifying if I want to change anything on the nose. Maybe I want to soften that angle a little bit. So this is the principle of, in sculpting, you want to keep it sort of loose. So you can see it's really easy for me to change this information, but I'm also being like very specific with my lines. So even though I'm simplifying, I'm trying to be as precise and as accurate as possible. So here we're starting to add in the information for the lips, so I'm cutting in to create that. Maybe give her a little more chin down here. Okay, so once I've started to get my profile in there, I can keep adjusting it, etc. But once I've got it sort of like happening, then I can go in and I can actually just draw on my features. So you can see how similar this is to the drawing exercises we were doing and why we started with drawing, even though this is about sculpting. So the benefit of drawing it on is that it's really, really fast, really easy to change. So say I had drawn my eyebrow like up here, and I thought, no, I don't like that. Whoa, it's gone. There's a new eyebrow in its place. That'd be nice if we could do that. The real eyebrows. Okay, so you can start to draw in some information in there, and you can move it around, you can adjust it, all the little angles, you can get as specific as you want, and you don't even have to start adding any volume for that to start reading like a face. So fun, so fast, so helpful to practice. So you could do that just many times over, different faces. Just keep practicing that. You can take this clay down at the end and then try a new face. If your clay starts getting dry, if you're using water-based clay, just make sure to spray it with a water bottle or to wrap it in a damp cloth, and then you can keep reusing that clay for days to come.
Thanks for joining me on Lone Sculptor. See you next time.